Alright, what's goody? I'm about to have some, I'm actually going to take part in this challenge. It's called the No Thought, Just Talk Challenge. And Norberto Trancoso, shout out Norberto, put this whole entire thing together. Just started up. He's like, yo, let's go on this challenge. So I'm like, I bet I'm with it. And also shout out Brian Gaines, because he's a part of this too. If it wasn't for him, the challenge wouldn't even be in existence. So I kind of like that, right? So shout out both of them, and we just gonna get started. We're gonna dive right into it. I think what I'm gonna talk about today is gonna be about wisdom, and I don't know what it is about wisdom, but wisdom is on the tip of my tongue right now. So really, I think that a lot of people like to conflate or confuse wisdom as being this thing where, it has to do with intellect, right? It has to be with how smart you are, how intelligent you are, right? And honestly, I'm just going to get right to it. That's not true. Wisdom does not mean intellect. Wisdom does not mean that your IQ is 210 and now you're like the wisest person. No, that is not wisdom at all, because there are some very smart people that make some very dumb decisions, right? So wisdom is not intellect. If you really want to take a look at what wisdom is applied knowledge. It's skill, right? Because if you know everything, I'm gonna break this down a little bit more, but if you have a lot of knowledge, but you never apply it, that means that you still have no wisdom, because you have no skill. You have nothing that you've actually tried to see if that thing has actually worked. You're just having a whole lot of head knowledge. And at the end of the day, head knowledge doesn't guarantee you anything. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't move you from A to B. It doesn't move you from one place to another. Like, I'm driving right now, right? Which means I have the skill to drive. But if all I did was just sitting down and was reading a novel about driving, or reading a test or a book about driving, but have never sat behind a wheel and driven a car, I don't know how to drive. Fact of the matter is, until I actually get behind the wheel and start driving, I don't know what the heck driving is like. I don't have no wisdom in that area, right? And so it's very interesting, because wisdom is a crazy, crazy thing. Because if you want to develop wisdom, you got to literally put action into everything that you already know. And if you know a little, then you can still use the wisdom that you have, which is the knowledge that you have. You can put the knowledge that you have, I should say, and put that to the test, and you can become wiser. That's really all that there is, right? But we got to get this whole entire thing straight first, because how can we actually develop the wisdom in the right areas? Because there's wisdom and then there's folly. And folly is basically wisdom's sister, but evil. if I can say it like that, right? Because wisdom is one of those things where it's like, wisdom is good, and folly, I'm going to describe folly as evil, right? Both of them call out to you. Now, if you don't have a lot of knowledge, or if you don't have a lot of intellect, or not even intellect, but if you don't have a lot of knowledge and you're just spewing things out just because, or just doing things just because, now you're actually going to be falling into folly, right? So wisdom is a principal thing, and you can find wisdom anywhere. Wisdom calls out to us all the time. So are you looking for wisdom, right? Now, how do you actually attain wisdom? I love how Myron Golden puts it when he says that you first have to start off with ignorance, right? And it's like, oh, ignorance. Well, yeah, ignorance. To get wisdom, you need to first know nothing. Which is incredible, because at the end of the day, that's all of us. That's like the entire planet. Like, a baby's born into this world, and they don't know their left from their right. They don't know their up from their down. They don't even know their goo from their God, So ignorance is something that we're all born with. And then after you have wisdom, once you're aware that you ain't know nothing, now you need to go ahead and know something, right? And so how can you know something? Well, as adults, that means that, attending a seminar, learning something new. Learning doesn't end just because you graduate from high school or college. You continue to learn throughout this life. We're supposed to continually be better and be progressing, right? We're not called, we're called human beings. So we need to be in the knowledge of getting better every single day, right? So that's a different point for a different day. But going back to what I was talking about wisdom and knowledge, as adults, we need to be able to go ahead and have knowledge, right? So how do you get knowledge? Knowledge is basically just knowing something that you did not know before, right? Like, if you just walked outside and it was cold, and you didn't know that it was cold, now you have knowledge that it was cold, all right? Like, now you know that you should probably turn on the TV and just check the weather and see that it was cold. So, and like I was saying before, knowledge doesn't end just because you graduate from college or high school or anything like that. Like, you need to be progressively getting better and progressively increasing in your knowledge throughout the day, like day by day, more and more and more, right? And so after you get knowledge, now you need to get the understanding of the knowledge that you just got, right? Because you can know something. This is something that I always say. Something I always say is that you can know something without ever really knowing something, right? Just like my example of driving behind the wheel, of driving, just because you read the book on how to drive doesn't mean that you actually know how to drive. You may know a head knowledge about driving, but you've never been behind the wheel. So how can you say that you know how to drive, right? It's like a farmer that just sits down and read books. I shouldn't even say a farmer. A person that just sits down and read books about farming all day, but they've never gone out onto the farm and put their hand into the soil. They've never planted anything. They've never actually gone out and feel what it's like to be on a farm. How can you call yourself a farmer if you've never done any of those things, right? So all you really have at the end of the day, like I was saying, is just the head knowledge about it. So now you need to get understanding. And what is understanding, basically? Understanding is understanding the foundation of this thing, right? Understanding is knowing that this thing works. This thing works is like, oh my gosh, now I know that this thing works. Understanding is, but why does this work, right? So once you understand why does this thing work, you can go out and test it and you can apply it, and now you have wisdom, right? And the crazy thing about understanding and wisdom is that you don't need one to get the other, but it's better when you have both, right? And I say that in a way because once you have knowledge, if you apply that knowledge, now it becomes a skill. And when you apply that skill, that in and of itself is wisdom, right? And so now you went from reading about driving to being behind the wheel of driving and understand and knowing how to drive. But you still need to, so you have the wisdom of driving, the skill of driving, but you still need to have the understanding. Like, why is it that when I press on the gas pedal, my car go vroom vroom? Why is it that when I press on the brake pedal, my car stops? You know? Why is it that if I turn left or to the right, my whole car goes along with it? Right? You need to understand, you need to ask the why questions just to understand. So yeah, get wisdom. And in all your gettings, get some understanding.